God, okay, so I haven't done this in a while, and I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. But we gotta start somewhere, so why not here? Chthonic companions, legendary keepsakes, whatever you want to call them, they are the strongest things you can get from this box. Maybe. I'm not actually sure on that. There are items in this box that are better in certain situations, but these guys don't use the trinket slot, so you could just have a Chthonic companion and a trinket. If you don't know what Chthonic companions are, it's these little doll things that call upon the power of friendship and essentially drags the person that gave you the doll into the fight. They either attack enemies or do some sort of utility that can help you stay alive. Their attacks do a lot of damage, so for balancing reasons, you can only use them once a room. You could also upgrade them with Ambrosia, which is kinda expensive. It doesn't actually do anything to the companion's attack, they're not going to do more damage when you upgrade them, but it does let you use them more often in a run. At max level, you can use them 5 times in a run, meaning that you can use a Chthonic companion in 5 different rooms. Not super worth it personally, but it's still helpful. Now, the way you get these dolls are actually really simple. You just have to get those hearts up, which involves a lot of talking and gift-giving. You probably did this while playing through the game, but I most certainly did not. I only had 1 heart on all of them just because I wanted their trinkets. It cost 1 nectar per heart and stops at 6. The 7th heart is going to be locked. For you to unlock it, you will need to finish a character-specific quest. Once you finish the quest, the heart gets unlocked and you can give them Ambrosia, not Nectar, which will get you the Chthonic companion. So, to get a Chthonic companion, you would need to give a character 6 Nectar, 1 Ambrosia, and finish a quest. With 6 companions in the game, you would need a total of 36 Nectar, 6 Ambrosia, and whatever is needed for these 6 character-specific quests. Safe to say that this is going to get expensive. Luckily though, let's just say I've been stockpiling resources. Oh yeah, I almost forgot to mention, the 6 companions are each locked behind a character, and I should probably tell you who they are. Megara lands you Battery, Mort is from Thanatos, Sisyphus hands you Shady, Rib drops from Skelly, Fiddy pops out of Dusa, and lastly, Achilles gives you Antos. Now, there is a right way and a wrong way to get these legendary keepsakes. The normal, correct, sensible, and probably intended way of getting them is to interact with the characters as you play through the story, giving them gifts, finishing their quests, all while you try to get past Hades and to Persephone. Essentially, progressing through all 6 characters at the same time. The absolutely wrong, stupid, dumb way is to finish the game's main story, minus the true ending, collect all the Pact of Punishment bounties, then going back to the characters just for the Chthonic companions, only to get them in the least efficient way possible. And I think you know where this is going. Okay, look, though this is going to be a semi-detailed guide on how to get all the companions, it is also a video about me complaining on how horribly I chose to do this. I've tried to cut down as much of the complaining as I can, but just so you know, it's still going to happen. Now, since each Chthonic companion has their own character-specific quest, some of them are harder to get than others, so let's order them from easiest to hardest and start with the easiest. Side note, from here on out, like I said, will be keeping track of how many resources are needed. Batty is by far the easiest one to get since it's tied to Megara, aka the literal first boss you meet when starting the game. Beating Megara in a fight makes her appear in the house, where you could talk to her and give her nectar. After you give her 6, the rest of the hearts become locked and you have to do a quest. Though calling it a quest is questionable, mostly because you're just running through dialogue. You just have to keep talking to her when she's in the house, and eventually she's going to pop up in your room and talk about relationship stuff, I guess. After that talk, this thing appears and essentially tells you that you could get Batty. Now, one little thing to note. Eventually, after a few runs, I'm not sure how many, Alecto and Tisiphone are going to fight you as the first boss. Once they're introduced and you fought them, the first boss is going to cycle between these three characters. The important thing to remember is that Megra will not appear in the house if you fight Alecto or Tisiphone, which makes it a tad bit harder to talk to Megra, but let's be real here, it doesn't change much. Depending on how good you are at the game, how quickly you progress through the story, this is probably the only companion that you're going to get by the time Persephone comes back. Though, actually wait no, Mort is also a companion that you could get before Persephone comes back. And this little guy is from Thanatos, which is... okay, Mort, or I guess it's Thanatos more than Mort. Thanatos, similar to Megra, is just dialogue. You give him 6 nectar, have a chat for a while, then bam, hearts are unlocked, ambrosia is given, and Mort is yours. But there's one little thing that makes getting Mort annoyingly difficult, and that is RNG. Thanatos, being the god of death, is kind of busy, so he doesn't tend to stay in one spot, meaning that he can be in literally any room, except event rooms. And when I say event rooms, I mean character rooms, wells, shops, mini-bosses, double god boon room things, and obviously, bosses. He also can't appear in the Temple Styx, but I might be wrong on that. Finding Thanatos in Tartarus is great. Finding him in Asphodel is okay, it's better than finding him in Elysium, but at least, if you find him in Elysium, you actually get to meet him. Worst case scenario, you won't even get to meet him in a run, which happens more often than you think. Once you do find him, you'll have to do what I can only describe as a kill contest. After the contest ends, he's going to be in the house where you can talk to him and give him gifts. I don't think you need to win the kill contest for him to pop up in the house, but you should probably still try to win because reasons. Mort is definitely a companion you're supposed to get while doing something else, like, oh, I don't know, other companions. But me being me, I hunted down Thanatos specifically and ignored everything else, which is essentially just tunnel vision. I turned on high damage traps, beat Thanatos in the kill contest, then jumped straight into the warm embrace of death. And when I mean death, I do not mean Thanatos. I did the same thing with the other companions, where I met the person I needed to, then went straight into lava. Really shows you that I did do this the least efficient way possible. Well, at least the skeleton survived. Somehow. Anyways, horrible transition out of the way. Our next topic and third Chthonic companion we're going to get. Rib. Technically, Rib is the easiest companion to get, but he's probably not going to be the first companion you get. If you're starting the game from scratch, Skelly's quest might be a bit hard to do. Both because getting the things needed is kind of hard, and because the thing you need to do is kind of weird. After Skelly pops up in your weapon room and you give him nectar, you are given a quest to kill him with Stygian. Yes, this Stygian, the literal first weapon you use. Here's the thing though, you need to kill Skelly with a max level Stygian, meaning you need Titan's Blood to upgrade it. Granted, you only need 5 Titan's Blood to max it out, which isn't that hard to get, but are you seriously telling me that instead of spending Titan's Blood to unlock all these weapons, you're going to spend it on maxing out Stygian? Good lord, I sound so offended by that. Okay, look, it really doesn't matter where you use your Titan's Blood, mostly because of a little thing called the Pact of Punishment. Once you beat Hades, you get to use the pact, and in said pact, right over here, there is a section called Bounties. If you finish all the bounties with all the weapon types, you can get 240 Titan's Blood, if my math is correct. Even if my math is wrong, all that matters is that you have more than enough Titan's Blood to max out Stygian. Once you finish Skelly's quest, you can give him Ambrosia and get Rib. Now, the next companion on our list is Fiddy. Even without an explanation, I feel like the fact that Fiddy is a snake might have given you a hint to who this is from, which is Dusa, our favorite, or at least my favorite, eternally busy, slightly overworked housekeeper. I feel bad for her, but I can't really do anything, so... Fiddy and Dusa are slightly more complicated for me to explain because I don't really know what causes Dusa to appear in the house. I also don't really understand how her quest works. After you eventually get Dusa's quest, you have to fix up the lounge. Thankfully, I already had a lot of stuff in said lounge, so all I had to do was keep talking to Dusa. But for video purposes, I needed to find out specifics. So, onto the wiki we go. Now, I don't know how accurate the wiki is, but this is the only source of information I'm going to look at. According to the wiki, you need 12 items which must include a rug. Plus, you have to clean up Cerberus's mess, which is kind of obvious. If you're going to get the cheapest things, then it'll cost you around 770 gemstones. But there are a lot of rugs and seatings, and I don't know if those count to the 12 items. You might have to get 12 different types of items, meaning that getting a bunch of rugs and seatings wouldn't work. Though it would be great if all these count as separate things, I have a slight suspicion that it doesn't, so we're going to have to change a few things out, making the new total of 1,520 gemstones and 2 nectar. Yikes. The 2 nectar needed for the tree jar is for Cerberus. You can't buy it from the contractor if you haven't given Cerberus nectar. There are also items that cost diamonds instead of gems, like the bat cage and the prism spheres, but diamonds are harder to get and more expensive when you convert them. Though I guess it would be cheaper just because it's a different currency that's not used as much. Either way, you need to get a lot of stuff, and it's kind of hard to say how much you need specifically. A total of 1,000 gems, 7 diamonds, and 2 nectars should be enough to get you 12 items without multiple rugs and seatings. You could get a cheaper total if you buy more rugs and seatings, but again, I don't know if those count. So far, getting the companions isn't that bad. It's a lot more time consuming than difficult. Unluckily for me, this is where it gets a lot more annoying. Remember this, I only had 1 heart on all of them just because I wanted their trinkets. And this, me being me, I hunted down Thanatos specifically and ignored everything else, which is essentially just tunnel vision. I turned on high damage traps, beat Thanatos in the kill contest, then jumped straight into the warm embrace of death. These 2 things made getting the last 2 Chthonic companions hell. Just so you could slightly understand how badly I chose to do this, I'm going to skip over Shady, I'm going to skip over Sisyphus, and go over to Antos and Achilles. The absolute, no question, hardest companion to get. This was the first companion that I wanted to get, that I tried to get. I came into this with minimal information. The only thing I knew is that I needed to increase the character hearts. After a bit of talking and a couple of drinks, I got enough hearts for Achilles, but it didn't really do anything. His hearts were locked, but I didn't know how to unlock it since I didn't get a quest. At this point, I was kind of stuck, and I could have tried to get a different companion, but remember, though all hope is not lost, as Achilles did give me a couple of nudges, some hints to what I should do next. While we were having a drink, he was talking about Patroclus and some past stuff that happened. Patroclus is a character that you could find stuck in Elysium. Like Sisyphus and Eurydice, he's not guaranteed to appear in a run, but you'll find him eventually. Sadly though, I didn't get the hint and spent a very, very long time running through the underworld trying to find answers. After an amount of time, let's just say, I finally got the hint and went to Patroclus. He didn't exactly have anything new to say, so I eventually figured out that I needed to raise his hearts, which took a while, both in the realizing and the actually getting the hearts up. Eventually though, he started talking about Achilles. At this point, I had to play messenger for a while, where I go to Patroclus, then he says something about Achilles, then I go back to Achilles, then he talks about Patroclus, and yeah, you get the point. On one hand, it was nice listening to them talk about the past before they died, but on the other hand, this was really annoying for me, cause Achilles is right here in the house of Hades, while Patroclus is all the way over there at Elysium. And when you get to Elysium, you might not even find his room. Oh, and do keep in mind, because of my tunnel visioning ways, I didn't make any progress on any other companion. Even after all this back and forth, nothing happened, which was really confusing because there was this giant talk where Patroclus was telling Zagreus to send a message to Achilles.
Response.
And it was super...
No, of course, sir. What is it? What's on your mind?
If I know my Achilles, then he's being rather guarded when it comes to this predicament we're in. How can somebody be so brash, yet hate to take unnecessary risks? Just let him know I said to risk it all.
Risk it all for you from the fallen warrior over in Elysium, Achilles, sir. He simply said to let you know to risk it all.
To risk it all? He said to risk it all?
Yes. Is there something significant about that phrase?
When last he said to risk it all to me, I didn't listen to him then, but should have. I should have.
He's asking you to take another chance.
No. He's giving me another chance, I think. Leave me, lad, for now. Thank you for telling me.
And okay, that's the end of the conversation. Literally, that is the last line of the conversation. But yeah, nothing happened and I'm just sitting there staring at the screen like a dumb, waiting for something to happen. This is the moment where I gave up and decided to look at the wiki, which... Hold on a second. Alright, so here is Achilles and Antos. And according to the wiki, to finish Achilles' mission, we need Patroclus to have hearts, which we've just done, Nyx to have hearts, which I haven't done, get access to the administration chambers, which I'm going to explain in a bit, and also 2 other character missions being Sisyphus and Orpheus, or Eurydice. I guess it's both Orpheus and Eurydice. Anyways, this is all the things you need to do to get Antos. Good lord, I could not have picked a harder companion to start with. Every other Chthonic companion in this game is significantly easier than this, and it is entirely my fault that Antos in specific was so hard to get. Well, since we know what to do now, I should probably start explaining things. Though where to start I have no idea. I guess we could start with Nyx and the administrative chambers because you need it for all 3 missions. Getting her hearts up is, straightforward, but the administrative chambers is a bit more complicated, if you even want to call it that. The administrative chambers is this little room to the side of the house. You can't normally go in here because reasons, but you can enter it again if you buy the pass from the house contractor. The pass isn't there by default, you need to go through a flashback for it to appear. The problem is that I don't know when the flashback happens specifically. It triggers when you sleep on the bed after a number of runs. There are multiple flashbacks you can get, but you will know when you got the right one, since you have to go into the administrative chambers during the flashback. After that, you can buy the pass from the house contractor and actually go into the administrative chambers. Now, let's go back a bit to Sisyphus, the one I was supposed to talk about before Achilles, since he is easier, but I skipped him because of this thing. Anyways, before I start ranting again, Sisyphus. A character stuck in an event room like Eurydice and Patroclus. You might not run into him during an escape attempt, but since he's in Tartarus, he's not that hard to find. Not only do you have to give Sisyphus nectar, but you also need to give one to Boldy. I think. There's a conversation where Sisyphus tells you that you could talk to Boldy. He's not gonna say very much, but after the conversation, you could give him nectar. After you get the mission, you have to free him from Tartarus. How do you do that exactly? With the help of Nyx and the administrative chambers. There is a file in the administrative chambers that you need to get to free Sisyphus. The problem is, you don't know where the file is, and you can't exactly tear the room apart to look for it because... reasons. This is where Nyx comes in. She knows where every single file is located. Thing is, she's not going to tell you if she doesn't have enough hearts. This is why you needed to give her nectar. Once Nyx actually tells you the file location, you can find it at the administrative chambers and buy it from the house contractor, which completes the mission. Completing Sisyphus' mission not only gets you one step closer to Antos, but it also unlocks Shady. Granted, you do still need to give Sisyphus ambrosia, but hey, you got Shady. Now, on the other side of this is Orpheus and Eurydice. Funny fact about this, I don't have Orpheus. He is still locked in some cage somewhere by Hades. For as long as I've played this game, I have not bought his freedom from the house contractor. Kinda obvious when you look at my old keepsake box, his trinket isn't even there, so the first thing I needed to do was to get Orpheus back into the house. Now that that's done, we need to get Orpheus and Eurydice back together. To do that, you need to get 6 hearts on both of them, then you just kinda need to go back and forth between them. Which feels really familiar for some odd reason. To be fair, it's not as annoying to do just because Asphodel is a lot closer than Elysium, but it's still annoying. After enough back and forth, you'll get the mission, then talk to Nyx, go to the administrative chambers, buy the contract, talk to Orpheus again to make sure you completed the mission, and finally, we can go back to Achilles, talk to him, then talk to Nyx, go get the contract and pay for it. Next time you talk to Achilles, he's going to thank you and disappear into Elysium. Why? Yes, that was not the last step. This is the last step, which is to drag Achilles back to the House of Hades. You need to give him ambrosia to get Antos, and for that to happen, he needs to be in the House of Hades. Achilles is not going to come back to the House of Hades until you go up there to Elysium and talk to him. He's going to be in the same room as Patroclus. Once you do talk to him, he'll show up back at the house, where you could give him ambrosia, and finally get Antos. With that, we have gotten every Chthonic companion, and it only took us way too much time, this many resources, and an extra 60 ambrosia to max out all the companions. So, was doing this worth it? No, absolutely not. At least not the way I did it. If you are going to get the companions the normal, sensible way, it's actually really fun, and doesn't take that much time. Also, the dialogue between the characters talking about other people or their past or them just interacting with each other, it's always super nice to listen to, and honestly, is the one thing that kept me sane during all of this. Now, before the video ends, let's just go over all the Chthonic companions since they're not actually that complicated to explain. Side note, these are first impressions. I've only used them for a couple minutes each, so like half an hour total. Baddie does 2,500 damage in a line-ish, kinda. You might be able to hit the same enemy multiple times, though I haven't been able to do that. It's great at dealing with hordes of enemies, though I feel like they're still better for bosses. Oh, and you can't use Baddie when you're fighting the sisters, but honestly, why would you? It's the sisters. I think you could deal with them without using a 2,500 damage bomb. Unless you're using the Pact of Punishment to make them harder to kill. Mort deals 3,500 damage in an area, but there's a bit of a delay. There's nothing to stop enemies from running away, so do try to keep them in the circle. It's a lot harder to hit bosses with this, but I still feel like it's worth it to try. Also, you can't use him while in the kill contest against Thanatos. Rib summons a 250 health Skelly that taunts enemies. Really reminds me of that one Black Tonic ability from Bastion, one of their previous games, where you put a dummy version of yourself to distract enemies and you just skedaddle off somewhere else. Really only useful when you're using 2 guns, but even then there were better options. It's more fun shenanigans than practical and useful. I feel like the same can be said for Rib. Not that great on melee, a bit better on ranged weapons, but still not that great. Fiddy stays for 30 seconds and shoots petrifying bullets. Her attack pattern is similar to the giant Gorgon mini-boss in Asphodel. She either fires bullets one at a time or a burst of like 6 at once. They deal around 70 damage a bullet, and the bullets do home in on targets slightly. I will say though, Fiddy does a surprising amount of damage, even with 70 damage per bullet, and might be the best Chthonic companion? Maybe not. But even if it's not the strongest, it's definitely my favorite. Shady does 1,000 damage in a small area while giving you darkness, gems, and food for healing. I don't know what to say about this just because it's kind of weird. The resources are nice, but they don't really do anything. It does a decent amount of damage, but if you're looking for damage, there are better options. Really, the food you get from using Shady is the main thing you want, but it's not as helpful as you think it is. Antos deals 1500 damage twice. It doesn't target the same enemy unless it's the only enemy there. It has no area of effect, so this is mainly going to be for bosses. 3000 damage guaranteed is amazing to have on boss fights. Personally speaking though, I'm going to be using them against Theseus and Asterius every single time, because calling Achilles and Patroclus to beat up Theseus and Asterius is very, very funny. Extra info from the wiki that I did not know: Skelly can't be used against the secret Charon boss fight, and most of the Chthonic companions can't be used against Hades. If you have enough hearts on Hades, you can ask for permission and he'll let you use Chthonic companions to fight him, the exception being Shady and Rib. Apparently, and I guess fittingly, you can use those two to fight Hades from the get-go. No permission required. Anyways, here is the total amount of stuff required to get all the companions, here is all of the ambrosia needed to max out the companions, and this is the end of the video.